All right. Thanks, Marion. Thanks, Marion. Hello, everybody. Hello. Good morning. And welcome to Mastering Marketing Analytics. Yes, it's very unfortunate that I'm not able to be there with you, but I think with the COVID cases spiking and all this, we were very worried about immigration once again stopping people from traveling, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, we do it virtually now, and maybe we do some catch-up session in the new year when everything has calmed down a little bit. Okay, so about me, just very quickly. I do marketing training and consulting, mostly in Singapore, but have done in Thailand and Malaysia and Indonesia, other places around the region. Um, I work with, I work for a company based in London. I have worked with a lot of large brands, Amazon, one of them, recently, Adidas, yes. Um, and my specialty is in marketing, but specifically in marketing analytics. So I will be focusing, because this is really about marketing analytics, focusing on that. But I do also do a lot of other analytics type stuff as well. So I'm happy to take any questions that you may have about analytics, whatever your level of expertise is. I'm more than happy to take them. Okay. Enough about me. We'll share these notes. So if you need to read anything more about me, be happy to let you know. But I'd like to go into, so we've already told our agenda for today. Sorry, our timeline for today. We'll definitely break at 10:30, and then somewhere near 1, we will definitely have a lunch break, and then in the afternoon, and we'll probably finish at 5. I would imagine we'll probably keep it to that today. Here is the agenda of the topics. Hopefully you have this from your brochure already, but in case you don't, we are going to be covering just digital marketing analytics as a whole. I have a whole bunch of things that that I want to just make sure everyone is aware of. I don't want anyone to leave here not knowing, not being able to say, I know what analytics is and I know what statistics is, and all these other things, these sort of high level concepts. And then we will go into some of the tools, some of the things that we use. Now, specifically, we will be using Google Analytics because it's a great free program system that we can very easily all get on. And not only that, Google also will provide us a very free demo account. And so then we know exactly, everyone can get in and everyone can use it, and it's not a problem. We don't have to like worry with a lot of messing around with our computers and stuff. Very easy, very simple, and you learn a lot of great analytics stuff from it. Okay, and so then day 2, we will go more about how we can use analytics for marketing by analyzing our audiences and our channels, how people come to our websites, how we can get them to convert more, and then maybe a little bit about some operational analytics as well. And on day 2, well, we'll have to see how it goes today. I have more Google Analytics stuff to do that we could work on, depending on how well we get through the stuff today. So we'll see. We'll see how we do that. Because I try to make it as hands-on as possible. I think analytics is not a spectator sport. It's something, you have to do. You have to be in it to win it. But what I would like to do, and this is what I normally do when I'm live in a real class. I know we're all virtually here together, but I'd like to know sort of where everyone is. And then also, I'd like everyone else to know where everyone is, just so we know sort of where the room, I don't know, how everyone kind of feels about analytics and what your background is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to launch a Zoom poll, and there's no right or wrong answer. Please just answer it as you can. And then what I will do is share the results, and just so we can see where everyone is at as far as your analytics experience. Okay, so let me just launch the poll now. And you should see a Zoom poll in front of you. Okay. And, oops. Okay, so hopefully, yes. All right. You are now viewing the questions. Okay, for some reason on mine, it doesn't let me answer. So, but hopefully you'll be able to. All right, so I'll just give you a minute to do that, and then we'll come back and review that. Okay, I'll be closing it up so everyone get their answers in. In 3, in 2, and in 1. All right, let me just end the polling now. There we go. And let me share the results. Now, again, it will show you an orange line, which is not the correct answer. There is no correct answer. This is everyone is correct on this. Okay, so you come back to life here. There we go. All right. All right. So now we see that what is your analytics experience? A couple people there know nothing. Okay, that's fine. Don't worry. Don't worry. This is purely, we will take you by the hand, make sure that you understand everything about analytics. But we have the most people regularly use Excel for your job. And it's good because we won't be doing an Excel course. This is not just on how to use Excel a bit better. We will try to expand the world beyond Excel. It's not just about spreadsheets and manipulating columns and stuff and cells. It's about the whole analytics process and specifically about how to do the analytics for marketing. Okay. Now, the second question, how familiar are with web analytics? Well, this is great. Okay. So most people have no experience or they have a little bit, but just been introduced to it. And so don't worry, we will be exploring web analytics together from the ground up because we'll just be getting our own Google Analytics account on a Google Analytics demo server with real data in it, and we will start to do some of our analytics on that. Okay, so we won't just be doing Excel, don't worry, because you guys looks like you're already pretty good. Talk about it and how Excel fits into the wider world of analytics, but we will focus more on how to deliver value to a marketing type function through analytics and specifically digital. I think it's probably the best place to work with. Concepts are, I guess, are broad across everything, but using Google Analytics will help us see the whole sort of customer journey on digital. And so we'll really focus digital marketing and we'll use Google Analytics to do that. So you'll learn a little bit about that as well. Okay, I will stop my share results here. So good to see, good to see. All right, and now let us move on. And we'll give a little bit of an overview of digital marketing. So first off, why do we do this? Why do we bother with digital marketing? Analytics, what is the point of analyzing our digital marketing? And I think that's a very good question. And I think it's something that's probably not asked enough. I work with a lot of companies, and what we do is we typically go through all of the channels. We go through email and web and social media and the Google ads and stuff. And then everyone always says, well, we have to have a big section on analytics at the end. I go, okay, that's great. Well, why? What is it that you do in analytics? And typically the answer is something like, well, we have a spreadsheet that we send around that has all the numbers on it. People don't really know what to do with it. Okay, so what it ends up being is about, sort of, I don't know, maybe about a third or a quarter of the session will be spent on analytics because it seems to be the one thing that people, they have and they know that they should do. Maybe it's like eating right or eating well. It's something we know we should do, but when it comes right down to it, we're not really sure what it is we need to do, and we don't really do it very, very much. And so analytics becomes sort of this thing that people love to get training on, but when you talk to most organizations, they really aren't doing it well. And I will actually quiz everyone on what analytics is like at your organization. And mind you, all of the Zoom polls and everything I do, it's anonymous, so don't worry. You can open up and say whatever you want. Maybe this is even better sometimes to be digital. To be virtual on Zoom because we can be completely honest and no one will know. But anyway, a lot of people do have trouble answering this question. And so what I've done is put together a few ideas. What I think why we should have analytics. I'm a bit biased because it's my sort of specialty. It's what I'm interested in. But I do think there are some real really good reasons for companies to adopt analytics. And this is something that I would say, I think that companies need more analysts. I think that's one of the worst things about most marketing departments is they have a total deficit of people actually working on analytics. And so a lot of these things that that I'll say coming up here just are never done and they're never ever thought about. Okay, so let me get into why I think analytics is a good idea. Oh, by the way, I didn't mean to say at the very beginning, I'm happy to take questions. Normally in class, I'm really into handing the mic over to people and making them talk. I don't know if anyone here has been in any of my classes, but I'm very much in favor of walking up to people and just putting a mic in their face and getting them to talk. We can't do that here. It's a bit unfair for me to hold somebody up and to hold everyone up until the people speak or whatever. So what I will do is I will do my best to answer any questions you may have from the chat. Okay, so if you put it in the chat, I will do my best to answer quickly. And then if there's anything that's kind of big or, I don't know, something a little bit more in detail, we can do it in the breaks. I don't go anywhere. I'm just here. So I'm happy to take any questions and sort of deal with stuff during the breaks as well. All right, so back to why do we have digital marketing analytics? What is the point? Why are we putting ourselves through this hassle? And one thing I think it helps enormously with is what's called biases. Okay, we are prone to have biases which affect our decision-making abilities. And here's a little funny cartoon here where we have somebody researching something. I've heard the rhetoric from both sides. Time to do my own research and the real truth. Google something, and literally the first link that agrees with what you already believe, jackpot. And and this is true. So we have a bias in our head of how we should be doing ads or what the website should look like, or how long the form should be, what information we should be gathering from people, how we should arrange our products if we're e-commerce. All these things, we have a bias. We can't get away from it. We cannot walk into a situation, any situation, and go, I have no bias. I am completely open-minded. No, we all walk into our everything that we do with a bias. And so analytics gives us a perspective outside of our own head and shows us something and go, huh, well, we may think this, but the data doesn't agree. Okay, we'll go some instances later about using data to get more information. Okay, so bias is a big problem, How analytics can also help, it can provide alternatives. So in many organizations, people are prone to follow POLAR. Okay, POLAR, path of least resistance. So however, we do things how they've always been done. This is how we do things. There's no alternative, because why would we? We've just always done it this way. Or the other one, and this is endemic, and it's good. It's actually good. Maybe I probably should have done a poll on this. Anyone that has a hippo at their organization, you can tell me about it later. Highest paid person's opinion, the hippo. And most marketing departments are run by hippos, or a lot of the influential decisions are made by hippos. And it's, whoever is the manager, whoever is the boss, comes in and says, this is how I want it done. Now, that's fine. Actually, I'm completely in favor of it, because a lot of times marketing, the work is in the details. The work is making sure that all the production is done correctly, that all of the ads are launched, all the website is up, customer service is working well. All of this stuff is all marketing. And I'm very much in favor that, sometimes the big decisions, someone's got to make it. Fine, hippo, highest paid person does it. That's great. However, it's not always the best. It's not always the best. And analytics will give even the lowest rung on the ladder, even the person who has no say in anything, will give them a leg to stand on, or give them a little bit of support if they need to go up against the hippo. So if something is something that the hippo says really isn't working, or the path of least resistance, what the way things have always been done isn't working. Doing a bit of analytics can help you go, right, well, I'm going to make a case for doing something differently. And it's not my opinion. It's not my opinion. I'm just interpreting the data. The data suggests. Okay, so no longer it's me, little old me, who cares what I think. No experience, maybe even, but I have some data. I have some data, and I've done some analysis, and this is what the data suggests that we do, and it gives you a seat at the table. And this is why I encourage. So I often have sort of, I don't know, students or people who are just graduated on my analytics courses. And I do encourage them. I say, actually, being an analyst is a great sort of career move. And I don't just mean you have to have the title of analyst, but acting like an analyst, and having data to back you up. It's a great career boost because a lot of people, for good reasons, they don't argue with data. They go, okay, or at least they will at least consider it. They may take another course eventually, but at least you have something backing you up, and it's not just your opinion all the time. So two really good ways. It gives you it provides alternatives to what other people do, or other people say we're going to do, and then it gives you a little bit of a leg to stand on as well. And then there's more sort of functional kind of what analytics can help you do. And here we have is our first screenshot from Google Analytics. And what this is, your first analyst assignment here, as we can see, this is called, sorry, let me go to my screen here. There we go. There I am. Okay. So we've got page views here. This is going to be difficult. Okay, page views. That is how many web page views there have been on your website. And we see the blue line going up and down and up and down and up and down. And so as this is a daily monitor of how many page views the site has had. And so as you're watching this going up and down, well, at first you go, wow, it's going up and down, up and down. What is that all about? And maybe you can just track that, the evolution of how people use your website from Monday to Friday, and then drops off on Saturday and Sunday, and then back up Monday, Friday, whatever. And you can go, okay, well, at least I see, how people are using it. Oops, I didn't realize my poll's still open. 1 second. Oh no, it should be off. Anyway, all right. And so you see how things are sort of going from day to day and week to week. But then notice all of a sudden something catastrophic happens here somewhere down, I guess it's sort of March-ish, right? And analytics, being able to sort of have something to, sort of in the corner of your eye and understand what it is that you've created here. So this page views is showing us how much people are using our site. We can see when something happens like COVID-19 this year, as we see sort of March period, we see that there is a sudden collapse in demand of our website. And we can then, if we're an analyst, we can go, hey, everybody, something's happened here. Let's take some remedial action. Let's do something about it. You can be the one who actually can point this out and say that we need to do something different now because the world has changed. So being an analyst, tracking changes, good to understand sort of the general flow of your business, the day-to-day, the week-to-week, but also can monitor and see what happens when something terrible happens. Now, as you'll see, maybe at the very end there a little bit, we see that there was what I call the March recovery started to happen, and now this is from the Google Analytics, the Google site. So this is Google tracking their own traffic. And there was an absolute collapse, which is really unusual because I've been running these classes for months and months, not years and years, but months and months. And this pattern has always been the same, always, that little sawtooth pattern that you see here. And then all of a sudden it just flattened out. And I was like, whoa, okay, things are getting really bad here if this is going down that much. But that very quickly went back up. And now I think we're back up to record traffic, which leads me to believe that the economic recovery will not be too bad because, really, the Google traffic only stopped for couple weeks there and then was pretty much back to normal. So, but it did worry me very slightly. But yeah, you could be the one in the company that would be able to find this, and you would be able to know this first of all. And if you know analytics, you could be the not just alerting, but also come up with the ideas as well. Very good place to be. Okay, and then once you not just track changes, not just say that something's happening, but you can also measure whether or not your improvements are working. Okay, so again, when you are an analyst, you have the ability to both suggest, hey, I think the data suggests we could be doing something differently here. But then we also have this other idea of what's called A/B testing, which we'll talk about later. And this is the idea, especially in digital, it's very big in digital, where you have A, which is how you've always done things. So you have a control experiment. Okay, we say, okay, for some reason the green picture is on the left and we have sort of two headlines there and the text is centered, I don't know, whatever it is. And so all so half of the audience will be getting the A version, but then we also, as an analyst, we go, well, we're going to try something different here. We're going to test to see if we move the pictures to the right and we left justify the text and we only have one headline. Let's see how that does. And that would be your B. Okay. And you don't just say this and go, you know what? I think everything should be different. That would make you like the hippo, where you just go, I'm just gonna suggest how we do things, and that's just how it is. No, 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 no. As an analyst, you're gonna go to the going to go into the situation and go, all right, my A, okay, that's fine. We can keep it at that, but I'm going to introduce a B, a different thing, and what I will do is I will measure it and see whether or not there is a statistical difference between the two. Can we actually say that one is better than the other? And it didn't just happen by chance. That is what an analyst does. Okay. Most people can't do this. Most people would just go, well, I don't know. I just throw it up there, see if it sticks. But as an analyst, you can go, hey, actually, there's a way, a methodology for doing this. If we do it correctly, we probably will come up with a better solution. Okay. So it's another, I guess you call it a superpower. Maybe I should have a sort of superheroes on here. A new superpower is that not only can you come up with new ideas, but you can also test and see if they really work. Okay, so we can measure the improvements. And then finally, this is real data, actually. This is a time series of conversion rates from a big e-commerce site that you've probably all used. And in it, we see that over time, we see things go up and we see things go down. Let me see if I can get my mouse over there. I'm gonna have to get my mouse around here. Down and then up and then down and then big spike there. Okay, all the blue. That is what's happened in the past. Okay. Now, if you know your analysis, if you know how to use the right tools, this is something called forecast in Excel. You can also use it in the orange to predict what's going to happen in the future. And what it will do is these tools will do is not only give you some idea of what it's likely to be in the future, but will give you a boundary, what's called sort of the confidence interval, the 95% interval, the low and the high of what it's likely to be. And so you see over time, all of that data is going into some sort of algorithm, all the blues ups and downs going into some sort of algorithm, and it's going, okay, this is the pattern. What is likely to happen? So this was done in what way? I did it in September 2017. Yeah. And you look and you see, okay, right, it's going to sort of go down a little bit, but then there's this huge sharp rise. You go, well, how does the computer know that? How on earth could the computer guess that? Well, when you look back to the same period, this is sort of the December period, or maybe it's late November, early December, they had a big rise here. And so the algorithm knows to do a big rise there. Now, this is useful because what you can say is, not just in general, oh, I think things are going to go up, but you can say, well, we looked at the data, we put it in an algorithm, And the algorithm gave us some indication of what we can expect over the Christmas period. And then you can do forecast. And so this is another very, key part of marketing analytics I think is often left out. So a lot of times people will be coming up with the numbers. They'll be looking at their clicks and their page views, and they're looking at how their products are moving and all this, and they'll have a very sort of looking towards the past, looking at the past and going, okay, this is what happened, this is what happened, and all they'll be doing is reporting the past. But unless you can predict, I mean, which is all very good, of course, because everyone from your manager to the C level, they like to know what happened in the past. They like to know what performance was. Yeah, absolutely. But unless you have some sort of ability to predict the future, I'm not really sure it's adding a whole lot of value to business. And I think this is one of the big problems. I don't know. Definitely marketing has always been something where I think it's as a sort of a productivity problem, or something where it feels like marketing just becomes like a cost center, and it's not really respected in the organization, and everyone outside of marketing seems to have all their opinions and kind of just send stuff to, oh no, just send it to marketing, they'll do it. And marketing doesn't have the respect maybe that finance does, right? And I think this might be part of the reason, is that, in finance, they're relying on, analysts, yes, with special skills, but the analysts do a lot of forecasting. Okay. They do a lot of sort of saying, this is what is likely to happen in the future, or this is how we prepare for the future. So let's do something slightly differently, because then we will be ready for the future. Whereas I feel marketing is always just like, well, this is what happened in the past. And they talk about, how many people visited the website, or how many people bought things, or how much an ad campaign costs, whatever. It was all in the past. But there's very little talk about this is what's going to happen in the future. Okay. And so it's maybe not quite as valuable to the people upstairs, whether they be the owners or the C-suite or whoever, because we're not pitching and saying, hey, we should be aiming to do this in the future, and this is what we suspect will happen, and this is a return we're going to get from our investment. Whereas in finance, very respected, they do these things. They do these things very, very regularly. So something that maybe we can all learn from finance is do a bit more analytics, look a bit more like we know what's going on, do some predictions about the future, and maybe we'll get some more respect. Okay, so this is a good start. We'll start on marketing analytics. And so yes, so here we go. This is something. Okay. Oh, I didn't tell you. So I have like some quiz questions here, and this is not required. Not required quiz questions. It's just for a bit of fun. It's just to keep you on your toes. And there are a few things that will come up in our sort of discussion that I will then run quiz questions on. And actually, the quiz questions are not really all that hard. They're pretty much just kind of tell me back what some of the things that I've told you. But just to make it fun, there's a little bit of a timer on the quiz question. And so what we'll do is so just try to remember some of this stuff. And then whoever answers the quickest will get the most points. And then we'll add up the points over the 2 days. And then at the end of it, we'll see who is the winner. Now, may you worry about not knowing the answers to the questions. Don't worry. And even if you get it wrong, don't worry. Guess what? Because all of the leaderboards will all be anonymous. So no one will know that it's you. No one will go, oh my God, you're so terrible. No one will know. You'll have a secret name that'll hide your identity, so you can answer as well as you can. But you can also really try to do well as well. And maybe you win. I don't know. Maybe we'll try and find something nice for you at the end. Okay, so if I were to sum up analytics all in all, overall, what it is and everything that it is, I would say it is really about understanding the past so you can predict the future. So you can come up with something new for the business. And now there's a lot of people around here, as I said, in marketing who spend a lot of their time understanding the past, and they never predict the future. And really, in some ways, they're not analysts. They're just reporters. And they're just sort of saying, this is what happened, this is what happened. And then it's kind of like sending it off And, you know, it's like, oh, well, hopefully somebody else can figure this out because I really have no clue. And I don't know that that adds, I mean, it's necessary. Okay. Somebody needs to do it. But I'm not sure it adds a whole lot of value. Okay. And so this is maybe the part of the marketing paradox that I spoke about, where we seem to do a lot of work in marketing, but it doesn't have quite the respect as other disciplines. This could be the reason, because we spend too much time understanding the past. Now, on the other hand, you have a lot of people out there who are predicting the future. You have futurists and thought leaders and people who give TED Talks. And a lot of times, sometimes they're good, but sometimes a lot of people are happy to sort of predict the future without really understanding the past, or without really even considering the past. They just get, I don't know, a vision in their heads of how things are. Maybe they have some sort of, I don't know, idea about how they want things to be, and they'll talk a lot about the future. Like how many future technologies have we had thrown at us over the past few years? What was it? 3D printing, chatbots, digital assistants, self-driving cars. Wow, we've had a lot of future thrown at us over the past few years. No one said anything about COVID though, did they? Right? No futurist got that one right, or I don't know if they did. I'm not entirely aware of it. Uh, so the futurists aren't doing too good right now. I don't know. Maybe Elon Musk is maybe the only futurist with any credibility, because he actually got something to work. But most other futurists are probably I don't know, rubbing their heads right now, sort of wondering how they got it all wrong. Um, and so, I think it takes both. It takes both. And if you're going to be an analyst, you have to have sort of one foot in, really getting in deep, understanding the past, but at the same time going, right, how can this information that I have, that I'm getting from the past, help me to predict the future? Because otherwise it's of fairly low value, unless you are telling the business something that they don't already know. Like if you run this ad campaign and it will target people in this group, okay, then what I expect will happen is we will, get this many visitors to our website. We will get this many people inquiring for more information, and we will convert this many people. And so if you invest, I don't know, 100,000 ringgit, we will get 1,000,000 ringgit. And being able to give it something like that, some sort of information like that, where you're saying, this is my investable project. This is the project that I suggest we do. I've done the analysis. I've done the research. I believe that this is a way that we can move forward and grow the business and be bigger in our market. Okay, I've done the analytics. This is my proposal. Then I think you're really adding value. If all you're doing is saying, well, this is how many visitors we got in June and in July and August, and you don't really say anything about what you think is going to happen in, October, November, December, then, you can't really, it's hardly surprising. People are not going to take it, all that seriously. Okay. So understanding the past and predicting the future, two things that you have to do with analytics. All right, so I'm not going to quiz you right now. I just did want to introduce that thing so that you didn't sort of jump on me and go, "Oh no, you didn't tell me." So I'm telling you now. But first of all, before we do, let me just check. Where's my quiz? Hold on 1 second. I guess we have a couple sections before a quiz. All right, we got time. Before. We don't have to. You can relax a little bit. All right. Now I want to talk about analytics process, because, as I mentioned before, a lot of people, an analytics is just, sort of collecting numbers, putting them on spreadsheets, sharing the spreadsheet. Actually, yeah, this is what I've seen the most is they sort of go around, collect all the numbers from everyone, combine it on a spreadsheet, and then somebody compiles the spreadsheet, puts it in a giant PDF, and sends it around. And that is their analytics. But actually, there is a set process. I don't know who's designed it. I think this is actually from Microsoft. No, sorry, it would be from No, it's for Microsoft, who have come up with the analytics process, trying to get you to buy more of their their BI tools, their analytics tools. I'll go through each step in a minute, but I just wanted to show you that there are actual steps. Okay, it is a process. It is a process. It's something that you do. So I guess that's another thing. First of all, analytics is understanding the past and predicting the future. And then when you do analytics, there's actually a process. And I think it sort of follows the scientific method to some extent, where, you first of all start off, by asking questions or having some sort of ideas. And then you work with that idea by using data, and then you end up with a conclusion. Okay. So each of these steps, very important, but let's go through them sort of one by one. Oh, question here. How long or the most effective training do you need to understand the past? Good question. There is some thought on this. Some people have worked on this a little bit. And there's some belief that, say you want to do a projection into the future of a few months, you should at least have, let's say 3 months, some sort of projection like we looked at before. I think that was like a 3-month projection. Then you need at least 3 months of data. But what I would say is that a lot of times the data is seasonal, called seasonal, meaning that it tends to, your data tends to follow a pattern according to the year. So for example, I said before where we were I think we were in September, and we were doing the forecast of October, November, December. We were just predicting conversion rates for 3 months. And in theory, you could just look 3 months behind. However, and let me just bring up that chart again. That actually might help me just really quick. Okay, so this is, we were looking at, let me get my mouse over there. Sorry, my screen where my mouse is about a mile away. There it goes. Okay. So the orange bit there, that was like the, so it was supposed to be September, October, November. October, November, December, 3 months. And if you look, we probably could have just, we could have used just this data here before. And that is generally regarded as how much the past you have to understand to forecast the future. You can sort of just look at what's going on sort of 3 months beforehand and figure out what's going on 3 months hence. However, because this is a retail company, they have a particular seasonality. So they have a big lull in October, November, because people, I guess, are saving their money for Christmas. And then as December hits, all of a sudden a huge rise in revenue. Now, that isn't really predicted. I don't know, there's a couple spikes here. Maybe these are from some campaign, but really this pattern here very much resembles this pattern here, which resembled, if I go back one more year, 2016. Oh no, I don't have the 2015, sorry. But yeah, it did. So we have another spike that's not on this chart just before there. So it's very much something in the first week of December, they always get a spike. And so, a lot of times you do need more data than you may think. Okay. And when we'll look at an analysis techniques for how this might work, probably tomorrow, I think, how this sort of forecasting type stuff works. And maybe I'll even get out the spreadsheet. Might be okay. And then, when you have the whole year's data, then you start coming up with a prediction that looks actually pretty good. Okay, is it possible to predict the future with scenario analysis, pessimistic, most likely, etc.? Well, okay, so what this does here, you see this is Excel's forecast feature, and they do a low, medium, high sort of there for you. Now, this is just done using how jumpy the data is, okay? So if you have a very volatile data where it's moving around a lot, then these lines will get very optimistic, very pessimistic. And so, for example, here we see that, at sort of, what is it, in October, September 25th, whatever. Optimistic, we have it at sort of 0.55% conversion rate. pessimistic down somewhere at 0.3 or 0.2 percent conversion rate. And so, the math in and of itself can give you some sort of scenario analysis. Now, if you're looking at true scenario analysis, though, like for example, the way that certain websites, 538, for example, models the U.S. election, they'll have multiple parameters. So this is what you would call sort of a one parameter forecast, right? It doesn't take into consideration that, something like COVID might happen, for example. It just looks at, okay, what's happened in the past, probably likely to happen in the future, plus what's called a trend. Okay, so it looks at what's happened in the past, and maybe it adds a little bit of a trend, like things are slightly going up. We'll talk a bit about trends. I think even today, I think I even have a bit about trends today, and trends can affect your future forecast, right? If things are going up, you're gonna tend to be more optimistic. If things are trending down, you're gonna be a bit more pessimistic about your forecast. But you may also put something in your model. Well, this is all considering, this model is e-commerce site, and this is considering our site stays up, our competition doesn't come out with some great new product. You might have all sorts of contingencies in there, and then say, well, and they go, well, we actually need to model those contingencies too. And you go, okay, well, here's what would happen if the competition got really fierce, and maybe you include that in the model as sort of a drop everything down 20%. Or here's what would happen if we had catastrophic failure at our data center, and you'd put it to 0 for 2 weeks. There's other things that you can enter into the model in order to try and make it more realistic. Okay, so definitely, I mean, it's a very good point that yeah, this is a very simple model, and we will tend to use simple models here because we haven't got enough time to go into all this stuff. But I will talk a little bit about how multiple different things can affect your things like conversion rates and stuff like that, and we'll talk about that. Okay, good. All right, so back to our analytics process. Okay, we have a process here, and the process starts by oh, sorry, before, this is something I wanted to, sorry, I threw this in here at the last minute because we have an analytics process, but I want to make sure that anyone who isn't sort of on board with the whole marketing thing, that I don't end up using some crazy language that you don't understand. So first things first, I wanted to make sure that we understand this idea of what's called a customer journey. Okay, so the customer journey. This is probably the most sort of essential model of marketing these days, as far as not where the customer's head is at, not like that sort of the awareness, interest, desire, action type of model, but the model of how we measure results and how we gather data so that we can predict the future better. And I just wanted to make sure that each of these terms are fine for everyone. So we have on the left there, we have what's called the channel. And the channel is where people were before they came to us, but where they found out about us at that particular moment. Okay. So they may have seen an ad or a post on Facebook. They may have been doing a Google search. We may have sent them an email, or it could have been something like a bus shelter or a magazine ad or a TV ad or anything, right? It could be anything where they were somewhere else doing something else, and they became aware of our offer or something about us that was interesting. And then when they, for whatever reason, decided to go from the channel to us, okay, they came to our website. Okay, and this is what we really want people to do. Now, I've had many people on my courses who go, we don't really have a website, we just use Lazada, okay, e-commerce, or we don't really have a website, we use Alibaba, right? If they're doing B2B. And my answer to this is you're gonna struggle, okay? Your analytics it's gonna be difficult because the whole purpose of these marketplaces is to hide the analytics, okay? Why would they hide the analytics? Well, if they hide the analytics, then you become entirely dependent on them. And maybe they feed you some stuff. I know that is it JD? I think is probably getting a bit better. Tmall is getting a bit better with sharing analytics with its partners. But for the most part, most of Amazon and the other places, they're pretty tight with their analytics and telling you what's happened, because then otherwise, you would be able to figure out what's going on their platforms, and you wouldn't need them anymore, or you wouldn't need them as much. So what I normally say is, I think for analytics, most businesses analytics works much better for businesses which have their website and control the customer journey once they've moved off the channel. Okay, so the important thing here, first and foremost, is channel. Okay, that's a word I'm going to use, where people were before they came to your website. Then your website is hopefully something you have control of. It is something that you own, and you're not reliant on somebody else. And once you have somebody on your website, wow, there's a lot of data you can get from them, and you will see this firsthand as we work with Google Analytics today. But however, getting to the website is not normally the only thing that people want. I mean, maybe if you're a publisher, that can be something. It can be useful to sort of say, okay, well, we got people on the site, they saw a bunch of ads, job done. But unless you are a publisher, you really want them to do something. And this is where the conversion comes in, okay? So when you use the word conversion, all it means, is that you've gotten people to do something that you want them to do. And presumably it's something that they wouldn't have done otherwise. Okay, so they do what you do, they do something you want them to do, something they wouldn't have done otherwise. For example, they bought something. That is a conversion. They may have filled out a form. They may have requested a sales call. They may have signed up for an email newsletter, something big. Sometimes people put conversion points as, oh, they watched a video. I'm like, well, yeah, okay. I mean, maybe, at a stretch, that's a conversion. But really, normally it's something where they've given up something. They've given you so much attention, or they're so interested that they've actually given you something like their name and their email address, not just they sat there and watched a video. So that's normally what I'm talking about when I talk about the customer journey. It's important for everything that we're talking about here. So do sort of internalize that. It's not hard. Channel. I mean, it's something you do every day, right? You see something, you do a Google search, you go from Google to the website, and on the website you go, yeah, okay, that looks good, and you buy it or whatever, right? That sort of channel to website to conversion is a very normal customer journey, and something that's essential for digital marketing analytics. Okay, so now back to our analytics process. Okay, so analytics process, we ask questions. And some of these questions will be something that a human could ask, a normal person can ask, like, who came to our site? Who came to our site? And, could be something that, the answer is very, very complicated. And, like, I don't know, who came to our site? How do you want to know it? By country, by device, by browser, by time of day, by whatever. All these different things could answer that question. By demographics. You want me to tell you the gender of people who came to our site? And these are something that, I think that we have to start. We could take an analytics process and just start with that question and spend a lot of time trying to figure this stuff out. So if somebody asks that, an analyst can do that. Then we have other questions that are more something an analyst would ask, because you're trying to understand something so that you can predict the future. So who is our main audience? Okay. This is what's kind of called like market orientation, where you not only see, who is coming to our site and just listing them down. Well, we had people from Malaysia, Singapore, Taiwan, Thailand, whatever. No. You actually go, no, we have loads of people from lots of different places. So what, right? Our main audience are people from Malaysia and Singapore. That's it. Those are the people who actually buy something. Okay. So this is something analysts might look at and go, well, I've seen what's happened in the past. I've seen that people in Malaysia and Singapore buy. I'm going to say that, if we've done well in these two markets, well, maybe we should be, doing something in Thailand or in Indonesia or something. We should try and branch out. And then we look at, we were doing nothing in this country before. I looked at the data. Now we're making an effort in this country. We're accomplishing something there. Okay, and this is something you can do. This main audience. Yeah, because not only who is our main audience, what did they do, and what can we expect them to do in the future. Okay, so this is where you're starting to come to be predictions. So any of these questions are good. Who should we expect to be our best customer? Who's going to give us the most money? Something an analyst can do from start to finish, find out who is the profile of the best customer. And then you can decide, well, our best customer is, females 25 to 34, who drive cars or something. And you go, well, if females 25 to 34 and drive cars are our best customers, why don't we try and get males? Or what you can say, so then you're trying to balance things out. Or the other thing an analyst can do is go, well, females 25 to 34 drive cars are our best audience. Let's get more of them. Okay, so two things that you can do with that information. What will happen tomorrow? So we've already looked at that a little bit. That's the forecasting. How sure are we of our predictions? Okay, this is a question I think goes back to a question there before, where if it's possible to predict the future with, can you do pessimistic and most likely? Where you say, right, well, I've got this thing I'm going to predict the future about. Yes. Okay. But I'm really, really uncertain about it. Right. And I think this is starting to become something that maybe people understand a bit better. That in any prediction, there is always uncertainty. I have a very good example of that later. And do we think our current trends will continue in the future? This is where we look at sort of trend analysis. Okay? And we ask a question, we go, well, things are going well. Are they, or things appear to be going well? How well are they going? And, are we really doing better, or does it just look like it? So this is something an analyst can do by asking the questions. The next part is getting the data. And this is something I can't really generalize too much about. This is a very specific example of a website that had a date of a visit, what country they were from, a bit about who they were, their profile, their demographics, their channel, where they came from. So this is why I want you to know channel, just so this doesn't look weird. Where did they come from to the website? And then some other data. How many pages do they view? How much they bought? Whatever. And I think probably one of the more difficult bits is when you are, sort of left to do analysis on your own, and you're going, right, I would like to answer these questions, and then going, okay, who has all the data? Because a lot of times people are quite protective of their data, and they want to know exactly what it's going to be used for before they hand it out. And so I think part of, coming up with an analyst plan and thinking about what an analyst is going to do is a very good way, and saying, hi, I have a plan. Here's my question. And here's the process I'm going to do to answer it. This is why I want your data. So it's a very good way to approach somebody in your organization who, first of all, they may be protective, but more importantly is that they actually have to do some work to get you the data. That is probably the hardest thing. Certainly, personally, that's my problem when people come and they want to know, how did this or that ad perform? And I'm sort of like, I can tell you, yeah, it's fine, and hopefully that gets it done. But if they want the actual data, then it takes logging into the system and downloading the data, and doing something and getting it over to you. And then, of course, inevitably there's questions afterwards. Oh, well, why is this like this? Why is this like that? And so it can be a bit, hard when you are the person who's in charge of the data. If somebody comes to it and asks you for it and they don't seem to have any purpose in mind, you might get rebuffed because maybe they're being protective. Maybe they don't want people to have their data. In an organization, you're in the same company. You're not going to another company going, hello, I would like to have your data so I can do competitor analysis. No, I'm talking about people inside your company. They may be protective of it because companies are naturally siloed, where people sort of protect their own little areas. But more often, probably more likely, it is that they have to do some work to get it. and they might be concerned that that this is just the start of a long, tedious relationship where you're not only going to get data from them, but you're actually going to, ask them for data definitions and all these other things where, they're just, they're like, do you really need it? Do you really, need this in order, waste my time? And so again, having a plan, very good idea for getting data out of people. Oh boy, now the next part is cleaning the data. Now, talk to anyone who works in data analysis or data science, as it's called now, and they will tell you one of the hardest parts, or definitely what takes the longest, is going from data, which is something just somebody hands you, right? And data, right? The thing is, it's funny. What do they say? Data is the new oil, or something like that, right? And the bit is that's totally missed out is that data is actually useless, right? There's nothing like data. You can't read data. Our monkey brains are not evolved to be able to look at this spreadsheet and make any sense of it whatsoever. We can't do it. It is impossible. So data isn't really all that valuable in and of itself. Where it gets valuable is once you've spent the long, hard, slogging hours to turn it into something that you can read and you can do something with. And this is the process of cleaning the data. And here, okay, so here I've just taken from that data from before, and I've just grouped it by who came to our site. And so whereas before, I'll just go back 1 second. Whereas before we have all the different profiles and all the different things, the places they came from and things that they did. Now we can see how many page views are apparent on our site. What was the mean page views? We'll talk about mean in a bit. How many average page views did they have? And now all of a sudden it's something that's intelligible. So you've gone from data to nice and clean to data table. Now this isn't easy because you have to sort out, what are the different profiles, right? Maybe there's some that are misspelled. Maybe there are somebody might have multiple profiles. Total page views, that's probably pretty standard, and then you can calculate this out. But like, for example, if you want to do day-to-day analysis, maybe the dates are in a good format that you can work with, and maybe they're not. Anyone who's worked in Excel with dates probably understands what I'm saying here. That dates can be a nightmare to work with, and you get it slightly wrong, and your data is completely wrong, or the end result is completely wrong. So, having your questions, finally you get the data, then you're going to spend 80% of your project cleaning it, or potentially 80%, maybe less, but definitely you'll spend a lot of time just working with the data. To this day, and I've worked on a lot of data projects, to this day I still have gone in and like manually adjusted spreadsheets, because sometimes you just have to take, even if you have a massive data set, sometimes you just have to go in and correct the capitalization manually or something like that. It's crazy how much time I spend changing things around. Now, digital marketing, it tends to be a bit better. Certainly Facebook and Google, their exports tend to be pretty good. But if you're ever going into a legacy customer database, if you have a SaaS database, say, or something where they've have Oracle or something where they've collected data over many, many years, you can be sure there will be some landmine in there where they decided to change the date format in whatever 2006 or whatever, and then you go to do all the data and there's some terrible anomaly, and you go back and you look, trying to sort of figure out the good stuff from the bad stuff. It can be really, really painful. But yes, so this is the longest and most tedious part of data analytics. So if you are interested in being an analyst, right, welcome to my world. Okay, this is something that you will be very familiar with, because you will start to get data and you will go to clean it, and you will go, I have really just become like a data cleaner. I'm not really an analyst. I don't get to spend any of my time doing the fun stuff. I'm only doing the hard work all the time. Okay, so cleaning the data, the hardest part of analysis. All right, but we won't spend a lot of time on this. I don't think I do. I think we just use pre-cleaned data. And I'll explain to you why. Actually, there's a good reason why we just use pre-cleaned data later on. Okay, so then exploring the data. Now, actually, this is not such a great representation. This wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to show a chart as well, because exploring the data means looking at it. Okay, it means looking at the data. Sort of taking, here we have the channels where people came from, and this should be total page views here. Here we have a person's age and how many people of a particular age, how much they purchased, and what was their average purchase amount. And you start to just examine the data, and you look at it way around, every way around that you can. You arrange it into tables. You do charts. You do histograms. We'll talk about that, I think, probably tomorrow. You do everything you can so that people can, so that you can understand the data as well as possible before you go to really deciding which data you need in order to come up with your analysis. A question here. Is there software to clean the data or to do it manually? So there, of course, there's a lot of software that says they do your data cleaning for you. And some of it, it can help. Excel has gotten a bit better over the years, where now it recognizes, there's some things where it recognizes some numbers, will automatically recognize like percentages and dates, and it'll do some sort of auto cleaning on you. But occasionally it gets it wrong. And that's the hard part. When the date is done as an American format and you're putting it into like an Asian format spreadsheet, which is typically done in the British way, where it's, because in America, for some reason, we do month, day, year, don't ask. And then you get it in any other spreadsheet and it's day, month, year. And then Excel will get it all wrong. It'll get it all wrong. And then you will go through and have to manually fix all the dates. And so some of the stuff still just happens, and it just takes an eye to get it done. As I say, like, if you, okay. And I can think of another instance. If there's commas in your data, or if there are percentage signs in your data, these sorts of things can throw, sort of the import processes, and they can look at it and they can interpret it wrongly. And then, you just have to be ready to sort of handle just anything that comes up. Like, you have a set of data, you go to import it, and there's just error after error after error after error. Then it's, it's down to the analyst to go and sort that out. Unless, of course, you work for Facebook or something, and they have data engineers, people who are, their job is to do this. But most companies, no. I mean, even large, I'm talking firms that you would think would have, people like credit cards and banks and stuff that I've worked with. Even then, the analysts do spend an inordinate amount of time cleaning their data. You'd think it would be better. And I'm just saying that, it's an important part, and you have to realize that when you're doing analytics, that you are going to be spending a lot of time doing it. But then once you have it cleaned and you have it organized, then you can start exploring it and actually getting a good feel for it. Okay. Because once you've explored it, then what you're going to do is you want to build your case. You want to build your case. You want to say, right, I found something here, and I need to now tell somebody else. And let me just tell you right now, no one wants to see this. No one wants to see this table here. Okay, no one wants to see data, of course. Why am I doing this? Hold on 1 second. There we go. No one wants to see a list of things and a load of numbers, okay? Like, it's just the most boring thing on earth for everyone. And so this is something I always say to the spreadsheet. People just send a spreadsheet around. No one reads it. No one reads it, because people look at a load of numbers, and unless it's something that's directly affecting them, they won't even process it. They'll just be like, oh, okay. And the thing is, that's like the death of analysis, is when you reach your decision maker, and they don't pay any attention to what your analytics says because you've presented it in the wrong way. And so what I always say is, it's really good to go beyond just the table. You explore it for yourself. Yes, keep it in tables and learn about it yourself. But when you go to actually presenting it to somebody, you need to have visualizations. You need to have visualizations. There's no way around it. And here you might say, you know, this might be to prove the case that parents are the most, important profile to our business. This is from a healthcare website, and and I think you might have said, oh well, it's a healthcare website. Obviously, health professionals will be very important to our website. Well, no, actually, all the revenue comes from parents. Okay, and so this is for whatever reason, and you build a visualization like this, and it becomes blindingly obvious. Okay, blindingly obvious to whoever is on the other end of your analysis that this is the point that you're making. And so this is part of the thing. And it's a little bit persuasion, a little bit propaganda, maybe even, that after you've done your analysis, you are going to be, making a case. And so you need to put your best foot forward. And so this would certainly be a good example of putting your best foot forward and saying, yes, I found some data, and I'm not just going to show you the numbers and let you figure it out for yourself. I'm going to give it to you visually. So there's absolutely no way that you could miss the fact that the parents are our most important customer, for example. Okay, so you build your important visualizations. And then what you can do is in some sort of report, put this in and, accompany it with a little text. But then, your end result of your data analysis is to draw conclusions, okay? Is to sort of say, okay, I have done my analysis here. Here, for example, we have something slightly different. This is where we have what's called a time series. We have date there on the horizontal axis. We have visits on the vertical, something you're very familiar with, probably if you've ever seen a stock market chart, same thing. And we have our software drawing a line that is the nearest point to every single point on the graph, the one line that's the nearest point to every single point on the graph. And we say, in general, well, we look at this and we say things are going up. Okay. So you're going to start with some questions. Going to get some data from somebody, somehow, somewhere. Clean it up. Spend all your time doing that. Then you're going to, do the analysis. Explore the data yourself. Make visualizations, and then you're drawing your conclusions and presenting your results to whatever your thing is. But it's really, really important that you separate out first of all, you're getting your data and you're cleaning it is sort of, that's all behind the scenes. No one cares about that, just you. And you make sure that you're exploring, and everything that you do is all done to yourself or to maybe your team. If you have another analyst you're working with, maybe that, and that when you go to present results, that it's all done very visually and very easy, that there's absolutely no way that anyone can misunderstand it. Because if you present results in a way that somebody takes them 1 second to think about, the death of analytics happens, which is just, it's not, no one refutes it, no one argues it. You can give them a load of numbers. They won't argue it, they just won't pay any attention to it. Whereas when you do it visually, then the lights go on, and you have you're able to make your case. All right. How much time we got here? Oh, we have a little bit of time. So, hopefully, let me just go through the next few bits, and then we'll do our little quiz just to see how people are absorbing this material. So yeah, normally I take questions, and I ask questions to the audience, hand in the mic, make people talk, whatever. This way, unfortunately, what we have to do is a quiz. So let me just get through this, and we'll do the quiz, and then we'll take a break. So don't worry, I'm very cognizant of our breaks. Don't worry, I make sure that everyone has breaks. So, but first of all, I do want to talk a little bit about when to use digital marketing analytics. Okay, how do you do this? When do you do this analytics process? And I would say that there are 3 sort of situations. Okay, there's your ad hoc, your sort of self analytics that you do maybe all the time, and this is something everyone can do. You don't have to be an analyst to do it. Then there's more semi-formal and formal, which I think maybe is something, if you have, you might be veering towards doing an analyst job if you do this. But let me just go through each of these. So first of all, ad hoc analytics. One thing that I think is not done nearly enough for people who work in marketing is to measure their personal performance. So you are an analyst, sorry, you are a marketer. You are responsible for a marketing campaign. Maybe you have a team of marketers that you're responsible for, whatever the case is. There is probably a good reason to like go back to your historical performance and go, hi, we made a decision here, and look at the effect that it had. The effect that it had on the website, the effect that it had on the ads, the effect that it had on your conversions, something that is tangible. And you can say, I did this and it had this effect. And I think this is something that anyone can do, and people don't do it enough. And another reason maybe why marketers don't quite get the respect that other people do, because they have no sort of quantitative evaluation of their performance. I mean, even finance certainly have a quantitative evaluation of their performance. Did they get their projections right? I even know that HR have a lot of sort of KPIs and everything to hit and report on that. But sometimes marketing, it just becomes, well, we sort of did 3 events and that was a great year. Yay, hooray. But they don't sort of say, okay, we did 3 events and look, we brought increasingly more greater amount of business during the year. And so sometimes there's a little bit of a lack of marketing becomes, how can I say it? Where I think they're measured on production. They're measured on, did they, produce things quickly? Did they manage the event well? Was there, did they handle customer complaints? Did they do these other things all on a production basis? But on a performance basis, it's probably not, the case isn't quite as strong. Okay, so something you can do, personal influence. Data exploration can always be done where you're looking for a way to do things better. You can download the ad data and review it. You can go into Google Analytics. Anyone can use Google Analytics, you'll see today. Very easy to use, no problem. If you have any, and in fact, actually, the great thing about Google Analytics, it can become like sort of a superpower at your organization, because most people, even if they're responsible for Google Analytics, they don't really like using it. And so if you can just gen up and be just like one bit better than everyone else, it can be something that can be a great new responsibility. And you can learn so much about your business from Google Analytics. And then finally, segment research. I think this is another thing. I'll talk about this more tomorrow. Something that's probably not done enough is to divide your audience up and to try and look for opportunities. And I'll talk about that more, because I think this is probably the thing I'm borderline most passionate about in analytics for marketing, is that we don't analyze our segments enough. We don't. So it's something you can do all the time. And you can follow the procedure I just had, where you're getting data and cleaning it, and you do that. But you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't go through each stage formally. You just kind of do it. Just kind of do it for each of these. Now, if you have, if you are sort of an analyst role, or you're taking, you're doing an analytics project and you're really going to follow the methodology, there's more things you can do. There's more things you can do. Where you can look at a team performance. And this will take a more formal approach to analytics, where you really need to get data from multiple sources. You really need to, so if you're a manager, you really need to sort of manage data properly and make sure it's cleaned and explore it and all the other good stuff that we just went through. A/B testing. This is where I said before, where you keep your control, and then you have a new one, and you see which one performs better. That needs to be done formally. And I'll talk about that. And when you're doing any of this analytics, there's 2 other aspects here. You need to document your procedures. You need to tell people how it's been done. There is the principle that maybe you get run over by a bus and somebody else can follow up from you. But I would say even more than that, it just adds credibility to what you're doing. But also the thing is you can hand your analytics over to somebody else and get another pair of eyes on it. This 4 eyes principle in analytics. This pair of eyes there. It's only 2 eyes there. Oops, maybe I should need to put another pair of eyes there. Because if you have somebody else who's reviewing your work, it gives it more credibility. Okay, so if you're doing anything about, so overall team performance, say you're reporting up to CMO or C-level about marketing team, that takes a semi-formal approach. And then if you are going to do this A/B testing, where you're going to introduce new things and try and find statistical differences between the two, that too can be more like that. And then I think this is something where if you are an analyst, maybe you have data of record that you are responsible for reporting to finance, for example. Say you're doing ROI calculations. Definitely would have a formal approach. You'd have to document your procedures, and you probably have to put it in some sort of report. If you are an agency or you are managing an agency and you want to sum up their marketing performance, again, it's something where you're going to need, the official data sources. You're going to need to say how you did it. And so, by official report, I guess I just mean something that has, where you're talking about your background, you're talking about the scope of work, you're talking about the analysis you do and the conclusions that you draw. So nothing too much. Oh, I guess, sorry, there's what a form at the end of a formal analytics report would have, those sort of sections to it. And so if you're doing a bigger project, if something that's going to affect the whole organization, yeah, probably use that sort of formal analytics report where you actually talk not just about, what the problem is and what you needed to do, but your methodology, how you did your analysis, some of your conclusions, and then finish it off with recommendations, which is where you're going to get the credibility. You're going to get the credibility. So definitely something that I think needs to be done more often, probably. Measuring ROI and doing agency report or even internal marketing team report, but something that probably needs to be taken a bit more seriously than your sort of ad hoc type of analytics in a marketing department. Okay, sorry, I was rushing that a little bit because we have 5 or so minutes left before a break. Maybe we may have to spill over a minute. But what I want to do now, this is an activity here. We are going to go to a website called crowd.live. Okay, and let me put the link in the chat so that no one is lost. And what we're going to do is we are going to go and do a little trivia game. Now, don't worry, it's not hard. I'm going to switch my screen here, and you're going to see, this is what you should be seeing. Crowd.live /MMAQ. Okay, and what I'm going to do, oh, sorry, let me just do this right now. Let me just show you how this is going to work. How can I log out of here? What you're going to see, sorry, I should have done this on a computer that didn't have me logged in already. Why I cannot log out of it. Anyway, what you're going to see when you go to this web address is it's going to ask you for your email address. Okay. Now, it's not because they're going to send you an email. They won't send you an email. No. All that is for is so that it can identify you if you change your browser or change from your browser to a mobile device or whatever. And then it's going to assign you a funny name. My name, for example, is Forrest Trainer. Okay. Now, the reason why I do it this way is because now everyone can answer the questions anonymously. And they don't feel self-conscious about their scores or anything like that because it's all just for fun. It's just to make sure that everyone's alive, everyone's awake. And I sort of tried to pull out the most important pieces of each section. And honestly, let me just go through, I think this quiz, I think this section, I think I only had 3 questions. I just wanted to sort of get people a little bit alive. So what happens is, okay, so let me just see how many questions I got here. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. 4 questions. Oh, 1, 5. Sorry, how did I do 5? Anyway, don't worry about it. We'll just do them really quick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the questions, okay? And what you will see, so let me see, how many people do I got in here now? Okay, I got almost everyone in here. Okay, good. All right, so do join us here at MMAQ. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it, and what you'll see is sort of 3, 2, 1, go, and then you will have 45 seconds per question. However, to make it interesting, because some of these questions are a bit easy, but to make it interesting, there is a decreasing points timer. Now, you don't get any points for getting it wrong, but you will lose about 1 point per second as the questions go on, okay? And so you want to answer right, first of all, yes. but you want to answer quickly. So let me just start it, and let's do the first one together, just so I make it easy. And then the following ones, I may let it just sort of run. Okay, so I'm going to start it now, and you'll see the trivia game is about to begin in 3, 2, 1. And there we go. What is analytics? What is analytics? And we see that the points timer is decreasing. Let's see. So, you know, you may be able to answer this quickly. You may have to think about it a little bit. And however quickly you answer is how many points you will get. And normally I play a little bit of music to make it more exciting. Okay, so then it pauses. Then the question stops when it's done. And I'll show the live answer results. And we had 92% said A. Were they correct? Was the crowd correct? The crowd was correct. Crowd was correct. I was wrong. I was wrong because I didn't answer it. I should have answered. But I don't want to give away the answers to it. Okay. All right. So now let's do question number 2. And we're just going to go up to 5. We're just going to go up to 5. So let's do question number 2 here. So I'm just going to rock that roll. Okay, so I'm just going to roll it on to question 5. I'll do it to question 5, and then we'll look at the leaderboard. Oh, well, there's a question here I didn't actually cover in this bit. But anyway, see if you can get this one. See if you can get this one. It was a little bit implied from one of the questions. Sorry about that. I talk about visualizations later. I think it's tomorrow. Oh, no. Maybe I throw a few. Maybe I did this intentionally. I throw a few unfair questions in just to make it interesting. Oh, I have a question here about where to do the answering. Sorry about that. It's definitely that link just above in the chat. You got to click on that link, and then you put your email address in, and then you will see this. And then you will see this. But don't worry, don't worry. There are loads of questions left. Let's just, okay, sorry, the answer on this one. And just after cleaning data, we explore it. We explore it. Okay, well done. All right, so this was just to get everyone kind of warmed up to it. Okay, so we go to crowd.live MMAQ. You will see this after you put your email address in. And then what I can do is I show the leaderboard. So here we see the winner was Flower Tamer 8. Well done at 220 points. Fish Stargazer at number 2 and Lime Lifter at number 3. But still, there's a lot of people who are in the game, a lot of people who are still in the game. So always good to participate. And if you're not doing good with the quick questions, don't worry. We have exercises later, which are untimed. All right, so that just introduces you to the whole quiz platform. Just we'll do it along the way, just so we make sure that we're all catching up with each other. But now what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. And what I will do is I have a timer up. I'll put a timer up here so that everyone knows how much time we have left in our break, and that we get it perfectly down to 30 minutes. Let's see, there we go. And instead of sharing my slides, I will share the timer. Okay, so 30 minutes break. And then, yeah, we'll come back and we'll start again. And if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. Happy to answer them. Okay. All right. Have a nice break, everyone.